Boruto is ending the year very strong with chapter 65. In this one we see the return of Kawaki's power, new power for Boruto, and what seems like the beginning of the time skip we've all waited years for. Previously, Boruto's karma had been activated and it seemed as though Momoshiki was again in control and about to rampage. In reality though, Boruto was still in control of his power and would use it to defend Kawaki, while of course keeping Code at bay. While this fight would progress, Naruto was on the way to the battle, ready to use what power he had left. Himawari was worried about her father. The Hokage would activate Sage Mode, a form that has defended the village and really the ninja world as a whole many times. While doing so, he would ask if she's forgotten who her father is. Hinata would only hope to herself that everyone would return safely. Back to the fight with Boruto and Code. Code would inadvertently reveal that he has some way of keeping an eye on all things going on in Konoha, mentioning Amado's medicine that was given to Boruto to slow his Otsutsuki transformation. He'd make it clear that there's no way the medicine could get rid of Momoshiki, and Code, knowing this, surprised Boruto. However, of course we know Code has been able to watch everything through the use of his partner, Ada. The battle would go on until Boruto fell to his knees. Something was wrong, and very shortly after falling to his knees, Boruto was on the ground, grabbing at his chest in pain. Again, the karma's power seemed to be too much. Suddenly, something like smoke would appear, grabbing the attention of Boruto despite his predicament. Both Kawaki and Code seemed to not notice. There, sitting above in a tree, was Momoshiki, the Otsutsuki that planted the karma seal on Boruto to begin with. He would swiftly appear next to Boruto and make his point that the medicine from Amado is at most a temporary solution. Boruto would try to move here, but couldn't. Not only that, but it seemed like everything froze. Kawaki, Code, and even Ada. Boruto would recollect a similar experience from the past, from the very beginning when Momoshiki was first defeated. Somehow he would connect that during the freezing of time, his karma was implanted by Momoshiki. This is the case, although there's not much ground for his theory, at least nothing he mentioned. Momoshiki would take note of Code as the one with the 10 tails and take this as an opportunity to kill him. These two basically want the same thing, so for either to succeed, the other must die. Boruto was now off the ground and right in front of Code. Boroshiki was here. Boruto was no longer in control. Code would brace himself and a massive Rasengan would appear. The destruction was insane, but Code dodged this, here noting how different this power was from Boruto's own earlier. This was the Otsutsuki power that was too great for Boro, which we should all remember as a very hype moment for Boroshiki that we actually got to see animated this year. Here Code would be warned that he'd soon meet the same fate. In Konoha, Amado and the others would learn that Code had encountered Kawaki. The speed of this didn't make sense because Code shouldn't have sensory abilities, so they assumed it to be from the help of an outer Kara member. A bit strange here that Ada was not considered by Amado. He was the one who modified her after all, making her who she is today. Even if he thought she was locked away somewhere or destroyed, it would make sense to at least consider her being a part of this. But from this next scene, we may have to chalk it up to having more pressing things on Amado's mind at the moment. Sai would relay some thoughts on the situation, but these words would seem to not reach Amado. He was zoned out, with sweat running down his face. While this was happening, he would think about Kawaki. He'd think about how they've made it this far and almost beg that Kawaki not mess this up. Very strange internal monologue. Why is Amado so invested? Why does he say we here? Back to the fight. Giant Rasengans would go off and destruction would follow, although not to Code. He would dodge easily enough, but Ada would express that he should consider retreating. This wasn't looking good. Here, things would take a shift. From his blind spot, Code would appear behind and grab Kawaki. Immediately, with no hesitation, Boroshiki would prepare another Rasengan. Code would try to talk him down and begin his escape through his teleportation jutsu, but Boroshiki would adjust his attack, firing off a much smaller Rasengan, here calling it Rasendan, Dan meaning bullet, very reminiscent of the ray gun from Yu Yu Hakusho. He would fire this and pierce Code's shoulder, stopping this escape. Boroshiki, like an animal, would then charge back in and deliver a piercing kick to Code, who was just seconds ago escaping with Kawaki. Boroshiki knew now Code couldn't absorb jutsu with his karma. Kawaki would now be in Boroshiki's possession and try rebelling. This is a pretty funny scene to me because Kawaki is literally being dragged. Boroshiki would here threaten to break all his limbs if Kawaki was going to continue like this, and he wasn't playing. Kawaki would speak up again before being dropped like a bad habit and then stepped on like an ant beneath Boroshiki. The arm of Kawaki would begin to be crushed, but then Boroshiki would freeze. It was Shikamaru's Shadow Possession Jutsu, which allowed Naruto to then swoop in and save Kawaki. They were pretty quickly able to put it together that Boruto had lost control yet again, and the karma would then be used to absorb the Shadow Possession Jutsu. We now had a situation that looked to be in favor of Konoha. Code no longer had the advantage, but of course Boroshiki's unpredictability made things still shaky. Ada would again try to get Code to retreat like she had earlier in the fight, but again this would be ignored. Here Naruto tried assessing the situation with Kawaki, during which he was asked why he came here. Kawaki really seems to believe Naruto will die very strongly, almost as if he knows the future. The conviction is just that strong. This distraction allowed for Code to take Shikamaru hostage. He slipped up. Code would warn them not to move or Shikamaru will have his throat slit. Shikamaru is of course a veteran and he stayed solid here, telling Naruto not to worry about him. The mission, stopping Code, comes first. He knew the risks and even told Code to just kill him, kind of teasing a bit here. Boroshiki hadn't gone anywhere though, and he would again enter the picture, this time telling Code he would help him out with killing Naruto. After all, the Hokage is an obstacle in his path as well. Shikamaru would yell out for Naruto to fight, and Kawaki would take off in an attempt to help. That would be shut down pretty quickly though by a mean kick from Boroshiki. Shikamaru was still being held hostage, and now Kawaki was down. Boroshiki would call checkmate. He'd won. Naruto would brace himself as again a massive Rasengan was created, destroying everything in its way, or so it seemed. The Rasengan was being absorbed. The previous words of Amado would come back. Is it powerlessness that's irritating you, or grief over losing the karma? Take it for yourself, especially since Ishiki is gone. Brand new power in the form of a karma that's purely a weapon. Kawaki's karma has returned. Everyone was stunned, including us the readers. This should be impossible. Kawaki stood ahead of everyone now with his body wrapped in the karma's pattern. What is happening here? Kawaki's karma had disappeared a long time ago now, and Ishiki had died before being able to place another one. So where did this come from? We do know that the extraction progress didn't disappear. For example, if you stopped playing a game at level 15, you would still be level 15. The progress would remain. So Kawaki's body is basically somewhat Osutsuki. Even still, this should not be possible. Amado's internal thoughts from earlier make it seem as though he and Kawaki had done something together to prepare for this moment. But when? We know Amado was kind of poking at Kawaki and seemed like he had ulterior motives. Sumire even noticed this, and he even mentioned the possibility of the karma becoming a weapon. However, what he did is unknown. One thing that might be fair to assume though is that this is the first time it's worked out. Kawaki in theory would have used this earlier in the fight if possible, so it seems desperation was the trigger. His desire to save Naruto. He couldn't pull out this power for himself, but for Naruto he was able to surpass his limitations. Very interesting stuff. There's a lot to take from this chapter. Loving more Boroshiki action, his creativity with Boruto's body and power is always fun to see. It's not exactly the same, but Boruto has his own spirit gun now basically. I know the Yu Yu Hakusho fans watching will appreciate that reference. The battle has changed drastically, and we've taken a major step towards the time skip. We knew Kawaki would get his karma back, but the question of how and when were in the way. In theory, we're right at the time skip now, and hopefully in 2022, we get to see it. If you haven't already, be sure to drop a like and comment to help us out, and don't forget to subscribe to Plot Armor notifications on to never miss an upload. Until next time, keep that Plot Armor on you. I'm KJ, have a great day, goodbye.